The massive alien armada appeared suddenly at the edge of human space. 300 warships moved as one, their metal bodies shining in the light of distant stars. The Jaxian hegemony had arrived, just as Earth's leaders had feared they would. Commander, Lee stood on the bridge of the largest Jaxian ship. His eyes narrowed as he studied the screen in front of him. "Hi, Admiral," he said, voice tight with confusion. "Our scans show only one human ship coming to meet us." High Admiral Day walked over to see for himself. Just one small ship against their massive fleet? It made no sense. "Are you certain?" he asked. "Check again. The humans must have more defenses than this." Lee ran the scan again. "Confirmed, sir. Only one vessel. It's moving directly toward us." Day stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Perhaps it's a surrender ship, or they wish to talk before we attack." "The ship is called the HSS Defiant," Lee reported. "It's smaller than our battle cruisers, but our sensors are picking up strange energy readings from it." "What kind of readings?" Day asked. "Unknown, sir. Nothing like our technology or what we know of human weapons." Day smiled coldly. "It doesn't matter. One ship cannot stand against our fleet. Prepare to communicate our terms." Aboard the lone human ship, Captain Kim sat calmly in her command chair. The massive alien fleet filled the view screen before her, hundreds of warships against her single vessel, yet she showed no fear. "Captain," said Officer Park from the communication station, "the Jaxian flagship is hailing us." Kim nodded. "Put them through." The screen changed to show High Admiral Day's stern face. His skin had a faint blue tint and his eyes were large and dark. He looked down at Kim with the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. "Human vessel," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "Your solar system is now claimed by the Jaxian hegemony. Transmit your surrender protocols immediately." Several officers on the Defiance bridge exchanged nervous glances, but Captain Kim simply smiled. "High Admiral," she replied, "I regret to inform you that you've made a fundamental miscalculation." Day's expression hardened. "Explain yourself, human. Your single ship faces 300 of ours. Your situation is hopeless." "Numbers can be deceiving," Kim said. "Tell me, High Admiral, do you know why we sent only one ship to meet your fleet?" "To surrender," Day responded immediately. Kim shook her head. "No. To demonstrate that we only needed one." On the Jaxian flagship, Commander, Lee leaned closer to his scanner. "Sir, the energy readings from the human vessel are changing. I've never seen patterns like this." Day ignored him, still focused on the human captain. "Your bravery is noted but misplaced. You have 1 hour to surrender before we destroy your ship and proceed to your homeworld." "I suggest you reconsider," Kim replied. "We've been watching your expansion across the stars. We know your tactics, your technology, your strengths and weaknesses. We came prepared." Lee's voice grew urgent. "Sir, the human ship is generating some kind of field around itself. It's affecting our sensor readings." For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Day's face. "What kind of field?" "Unknown, sir, but it's growing stronger." Kim's smile widened slightly. "You built more ships. We built better understanding. That's your miscalculation, Admiral." On the Defiant, Officer Park looked up from her station. "Captain, they're charging weapons." Kim nodded calmly. "Right on schedule. Activate the quantum observer array." The Defiant began to glow with a strange blue light that seemed to bend the very space around it. On the Jaxian flagship, alarms started blaring. "Weapon systems failing," Lee called out. "Ships across the fleet reporting power fluctuations." Day turned from the screen, his confidence shattered. "What is happening? What are they doing?" "We don't know, sir. It's as if they're changing reality itself." When Day turned back to the view screen, Captain Kim was watching him with calm eyes. "Now," she said quietly, "shall we discuss terms for your surrender?" The mighty Jaxian fleet, pride of the hegemony, hung powerless in space, and before them, glowing with strange energy, was just one human ship. Just one was all they needed. High Admiral Day stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the small human vessel on the main screen. The Jaxian fleet moved slowly forward. 300 warships against a single opponent. It made no sense. Where was Earth's defense fleet? Continue approach, Day ordered. Maintain weapons lock on the human ship. Yes, High Admiral, responded his crew in unison. Tactical Officer Song watched his instruments with growing confusion. High Admiral, we still detect only the one ship. No other vessels are coming to defend their system. They must have something planned, Day said. No species would face us with just one ship. Song's console began beeping urgently. He studied the readings, his face growing pale. Sir, I'm detecting strange energy patterns around the human vessel, quantum fluctuations that shouldn't be possible. Explain, Day demanded, walking to Song's station. Science Officer Han joined them, her expression concerned as she analyzed the data. Sir, the human ship is generating a field unlike anything in our records. The quantum readings suggest they're somehow altering the basic fabric of reality around their vessel. Impossible, Day snapped. No species has such technology. The readings are clear, Han insisted. It's as if they're manipulating probability itself. Day returned to his command chair. Whatever trick they're attempting, it won't save them. Prepare main weapons array. Aboard the HSS Defiant, Captain Kim sat calmly as the alien armada approached. The bridge was quiet, each officer focused on their tasks with intense concentration. They're preparing to fire, reported the sensor officer. Kim nodded to her executive officer. It's time, Commander Choi. Activate the quantum observer array. Yes, Captain. Choi's fingers moved skillfully across his console, entering complex sequences. Array powering up, establishing probability field now. A soft hum filled the Defiant, as lights dimmed slightly. The ship's power redirected to its most advanced system, technology no other species had ever developed. Field stable, Choi reported. Quantum observation matrix aligned. Captain Kim smiled slightly. Begin. On the Jaxian flagship, the lights suddenly flickered. Consoles shut down without warning. Officers looked around in confusion. Report. Day shouted as emergency lighting activated. Main power failing across the fleet, Song called out. Weapon systems are shutting down. Restore power immediately, Day ordered. Han worked frantically at her science station, which was one of the few still functioning. Sir, the quantum field from the human ship is expanding. It's somehow changing things. Changing what? Day demanded. Reality, sir, Han said, her voice shaking. The quantum field is altering probability outcomes around us. Systems that should work are failing. Calculations that should be correct are producing impossible results. Across the Jaxian fleet, chaos spread. Ships reported weapons powering down without command. Navigation systems showed completely different star patterns. Shield generators failed despite being in perfect condition moments before. Day watched in horror as 3 of his ships suddenly fired on each other, their weapons mysteriously activating and targeting systems redirected. What's happening? He demanded as his flagship's lights dimmed further. Officer Han looked up from her console, genuine fear in her eyes. Sir, the human ship isn't attacking us in any way we understand. It's not firing weapons or hacking our systems. It's somehow changing reality around us. On the Defiant, Captain Kim watched calmly as the Jaxian fleet fell into disorder. Probability field at full strength, Choi reported. Quantum observation targeting their primary systems. Status of their weapons? Kim asked. 90% neutralized, the tactical officer responded. The remaining 10% are experiencing targeting failures. The quantum observer array was humanity's greatest achievement, the understanding that reality itself was malleable when observed at the quantum level. Rather than building a massive fleet, Earth had poured its resources into mastering the fundamental nature of existence. The array didn't destroy, it simply observed reality in such a way that the probability of system failures across the enemy fleet became virtually certain. In the Jaxian flagship, panic was spreading. 3 more ships reporting complete power failure, Song called out. 5 others have lost life support. "This isn't possible," Day whispered, watching his mighty fleet disabled without a single shot fired. Han looked up from her console. "Sir, based on these readings, the humans aren't really attacking us at all." "What do you mean?" Day demanded. "They're simply observing us," Han said. "But their observation itself is changing what's possible. It's as if they're selecting which version of reality will exist." Day stared at the small human ship on his view screen, a vessel that by all logic should have been destroyed in seconds by his armada. Yet here they were, his mighty fleet crippled by an enemy that hadn't fired a single conventional weapon. "Open a channel," he ordered, his voice hollow. When Captain Kim's face appeared on screen, she didn't look triumphant or gloating. She simply looked patient. "Are you ready to talk now, High Admiral?" she asked. High Admiral Day paced the bridge of his flagship, face dark with anger. Around him, officers worked frantically as warning lights flashed across every console. Through the main view screen, he could see his mighty fleet in disarray. "Adapt targeting algorithms. Recalibrate weapons," he shouted. His voice echoed across the command deck. "We have 300 ships. Find a way to neutralize that vessel." "Yes, High Admiral," his officers responded, though their voices lacked confidence. The fleet's weapons officers made adjustments, targeting the small human ship with everything they had. Missile tubes opened across dozens of warships. Energy. Weapons charged to full power. "Fire," Day ordered. Streams of energy and hundreds of missiles raced toward the HSS Defiant. Victory seemed certain. No ship could survive such an assault, yet the human vessel moved with surprising grace. As weapons approached, strange things began to happen. Energy beams bent away, missing their target completely. Missiles curved in odd directions, some returning to their source ships. 3 Jaxian cruisers suddenly fired on their allies, their targeting systems inexplicably redirected. "Impossible." Day slammed his fist on the arm of his command chair. On the bridge of the Defiant, alerts sounded as the Jaxian attack unfolded. "Multiple weapons incoming," reported the tactical officer. Calmly, Captain Kim didn't look worried. "Maintain quantum field integrity." "Yes, Captain." The crew of the Defiant worked with quiet efficiency, making small adjustments to their systems. Unlike the panicked Jaxian officers, they appeared almost relaxed. Down in the engineering section, Chief Engineer Moon monitored the ship's core systems. Banks of equipment hummed around her, displaying complex readings of the quantum field. "Field integrity at 98%, she reported through the comm system. "The Jaxians are trying to adjust their weapons to compensate, but their algorithms can't account for quantum probability shifts." "Understood," Captain Kim replied. "Maintain current settings." Moon smiled slightly as she watched the Jaxians' failed attacks on her monitors. "They really don't understand what they're facing, do they, Captain?" "They wouldn't," Kim answered. "They built more ships. We built better understanding." On the Jaxian flagship, frustration turned to fear. Nothing in their military doctrine prepared them for an enemy they couldn't hit. Science Officer Han worked frantically at her station, searching through databases for any explanation of the human technology. "High Admiral," she called suddenly. "I found something in our intelligence archives." Day moved quickly to her side. "What is it?" 23 Earth years ago, human scientists published research on some thing called quantum observer effects. Our analysts reviewed it at the time but dismissed it as theoretical physics with no practical applications. Han brought up an old human scientific paper on her screen. The research suggested that observation itself could affect quantum outcomes. The humans theorized that with sufficient technology, one could influence probability at the quantum level. "And they've weaponized this concept?" Day asked, watching as another wave of his fleet's weapons failed to reach their target. "It appears so," Han replied. "We thought they would build more ships, more conventional weapons. Instead, they developed technology that changes what's possible." Day stared at the small human ship on the view screen, the vessel that was effectively neutralizing his entire armada without firing a single shot. "It seems we were wrong," he said quietly. Another officer approached. "High Admiral, 5 more ships have lost power completely." 7 others can't maintain stable weapons locks. The human vessel is still untouched. How? Day demanded. How can one ship do this? Han studied her readings. The quantum field they're generating doesn't just protect them. It actively changes probability around them. In the affected space, the probability of our weapons functioning properly approaches 0, while the probability of system failures approaches certainty. A new wave of Jaxion ships attempted a different approach, trying to surround the Defiant from multiple angles. Their coordinated attack should have trapped the human ship. Instead, navigation systems failed at the critical moment. Ships veered, off course, some nearly colliding with each other. The Defiant remained untouched at the center. On the human vessel, Captain Kim watched the Jaxion's latest failed attempt. They're persistent, Commander Choi noted. They don't know how to respond. Kim replied. Their entire military doctrine is based on superior numbers and firepower. We've rendered both meaningless. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Moon made a small adjustment to the quantum observer array. Field stability improved to 99%. We could maintain this for days if needed. Moon remembered the years of work that had gone into creating the array. While other nations built fleets of warships, Earth had poured its resources into understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself. The result was a defense system unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On the Jaxion flagship, Day watched another failed attack with growing despair. His mighty armada, terror of 12 star systems, was being defeated by a single ship that hadn't fired a single conventional weapon. Hi, Admiral, Han said quietly. I believe we should reconsider our approach. We cannot defeat this technology through conventional means. Day stared at the lone human ship. For the first time in his long military career, he faced an enemy he could not overcome through superior firepower. Open a channel to the human vessel, he ordered finally. We need to understand what we're facing. High Admiral Day looked at the damage reports flooding his screens. 27 ships completely disabled. 45 with major systems failures. The rest unable to target the lone human vessel effectively. His mighty fleet, pride of the Jaxion hegemony, rendered helpless without a single shot fired against them. He closed his eyes briefly, then made the decision he had never imagined making. All vessels retreat, Day ordered, his voice tight with suppressed anger. Regroup at Rally Point Omicron. The command spread quickly through the fleet. Ships began turning away from the human vessel, their engines glowing brightly as they prepared to leave the battle zone. Full power to engines, Day instructed. Get us out of range of their, whatever this technology is. The great Jaxion warships struggled to withdraw. Some found their navigation system still malfunctioning. Others couldn't achieve full power. The retreat was chaotic, nothing like the perfect formation they had arrived in. On the Defiance Bridge, Captain Kim watched the Jaxion fleet's attempted withdrawal. They're retreating, Captain, reported Commander Choi. Shall we let them go? Kim shook her head. Not yet. Maintain pursuit course, but keep weapons offline. Open a channel on all Jaxion frequencies. As the Defiant began following the retreating fleet, it broadcast a message. Jaxion fleet, this is Captain Kim of Earth. We seek peace, not your destruction. Please hold position for communication. Aboard the Jaxion flagship, communications officers reported the incoming transmission. Ignore it, Day said at first, his pride still stinging from the defeat. Science Officer Han approached him cautiously. Hi, Admiral. With respect, I believe we should listen. Their technology is clearly beyond our understanding. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so already. Day looked around his damaged bridge. Lights flickered, and several stations remained dark. His mighty flagship, reduced to limping away from a single enemy vessel. Very well, he said finally. I will speak with them, privately in my ready room. Moments later, Day sat at his desk gathering his composure before activating the communication screen. Captain Kim's face appeared, calm and professional. Hi, Admiral, she greeted him. Thank you for accepting this communication. You have left me little choice, Day replied coldly. You have an unusual way of seeking peace, Captain. Kim smiled slightly. We tried conventional diplomacy with 3 other species the Jaxian hegemony conquered. You ignored all attempts at peaceful contact. So you developed a weapon to defeat us, Day said. Not exactly, Kim replied. We built 1 ship instead of 1,000 because we chose understanding over domination. The quantum observer array isn't primarily a weapon. It's a tool to demonstrate perspective. Day's face showed confusion. Perspective? You disabled my fleet to show us perspective? Yes, Kim said simply. The perspective that reality itself responds to observation. That consciousness shapes existence, that a civilization focused solely on military might will always be vulnerable to one that understands the deeper nature of the universe. Day leaned back in his chair, studying the human captain. Explain. 23 years ago, our scientists discovered that quantum effects could be amplified and directed. While your civilization built bigger ships and more powerful weapons, we studied the fundamental building blocks of reality. Kim's expression remained calm as she continued. We learned that at the quantum level, probability itself can be influenced by conscious observation. With enough understanding and the right technology, we could change what was possible. So, you built a weapon that alters reality, Day concluded. We built a tool that demonstrates truth, Kim corrected him. The truth that there are always paths beyond military might. Day considered this. Throughout his career, the Jaxian strategy had been simple. Arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and conquer any who resisted. It had worked on 12 star systems before Earth. Why are you telling me this? He asked finally. Because we want peace, not conquest, Kim replied. The quantum observer array could have destroyed your entire fleet. Instead, we used it to disable your weapons and bring you to the table. Through the view screen, Day could see the sincerity in the human captain's eyes. It was a strange feeling for a high admiral who had spent his life conquering others to suddenly be on the receiving end of mercy. Your people's approach to conflict is different from ours, he acknowledged slowly. Very different, Kim agreed. The Jaxians see the universe as something to be dominated through force. Humans see it as something to be understood. Both approaches have power, but understanding will always ultimately overcome force. Day considered his options. His fleet was damaged, but not destroyed. They could retreat, regroup, perhaps return, with even more ships. But would that matter against technology that could alter reality itself? I have spent my life believing that superior firepower was the ultimate answer to any problem, Day said quietly. Your single ship has forced me to question that belief. That was our intention, Kim replied. Not to humiliate or destroy, but to demonstrate that there are other paths, better paths. For the first time in the conversation, Day allowed himself a small smile. It seems we have much to learn from each other, Captain Kim. That, Kim said with a nod, is exactly what we hoped you would say. 1 week after the failed invasion, High Admiral Day stood inside the HSS Defiant. He felt strange wearing no weapons as he walked through the human ship. 4 Jaxian security officers accompanied him, all looking uncomfortable in this alien environment. Captain Kim led the tour personally. They stopped at a large viewing area where screens showed various parts of Earth's solar system. This is our main observation deck, Kim explained. From here, we can monitor the quantum field that protects our entire system. Day looked at the displays with newfound respect. The screen showed Earth, its moon, and the other planets, all surrounded by a faint blue glow that his eyes could barely detect. Your entire solar system exists within a quantum probability field, Kim explained. Earth was never defenseless. We sent the Defiant not as a weapon, but as a bridge between our civilizations. A bridge? Day asked. You could have destroyed my fleet. That wasn't our goal, Kim said. We've been watching the Jaxian hegemony expand for decades. We knew eventually you would reach our system. She touched a control panel, bringing up new images on the screens. Rather than build warships, we focused on understanding quantum reality. We developed the observer array as a defense, yes, but also as a demonstration. Day studied the displays showing the complex technology. He understood perhaps 1/10 of what he was seeing, despite his advanced military training. My people have conquered 12 star systems through superior firepower, he admitted. We never considered that we might encounter a force that renders firepower irrelevant. Kim nodded. Different species follow different paths. Yours mastered conventional weapons and fleet tactics. Ours mastered the underlying nature of reality itself. She turned to face him directly. Different paths of advancement, she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of friendship. Perhaps now we can learn from each other. Day hesitated, only briefly before taking her hand. It felt small in his larger grip, yet this small human and her single ship had changed everything for his people. I would like that, he said. Later that day, Engineer Moon showed Day the heart of the Defiant, the Quantum Observer Array. The machine looked deceptively simple, a series of crystalline structures surrounded by fields of blue energy. How does it work? Day asked. At its most basic level, Moon said. It observes reality with such focus that it changes the probability of what can happen. We can make your weapons extremely unlikely to function properly. We can make your targeting systems almost certain to fail. Day shook his head in wonder. And you use this technology for defense only? Mostly, Moon replied. We've found other applications too. Medical treatment, space travel, energy production. Once you understand that reality is shaped by observation, many things become possible. On the final day of his visit, Day joined. Captain Kim on the bridge, the crew worked quietly around them, each focused on their tasks. Your people are not what we expected, Day admitted. What did you expect? Kim asked. Weakness. Fear. We thought your single ship meant you were desperate. Or foolish. Kim smiled. Instead, you found that we simply had a different kind of strength. Yes, Day said. A strength my people need to understand better. When Day returned to the Jaxian homeworld, he carried not terms of surrender but proposals for alliance. His government officials listened with disbelief as he explained what had happened. One ship defeated our entire fleet? Asked Supreme Commander Gill, his voice heavy with doubt. Not defeated, Day corrected. They could have destroyed us, but chose not to. They showed us that our understanding of power is incomplete. In the months that followed, the Jaxian hegemony struggled to adapt. Their military doctrine, built over centuries, had been fundamentally challenged by a single human ship. Some officers wanted to build more warships. Others suggested stealing the human technology. Day fought against both ideas. More ships won't help against their quantum field, he explained repeatedly. And we can't steal what we don't understand. Slowly, the Jaxian leadership accepted the new reality. Diplomatic talks began. Trade discussions followed. For the first time in their history, the Jaxians considered allies rather than conquests. As relations stabilized, many Jaxians still asked the question that had first confused them. Why did the humans only send one ship? Young Jaxian officers studied the battle recordings with fascination. Engineers examined what little they understood of the quantum technology. Scientists began exploring fields of research they had previously ignored. At a formal dinner celebrating the new alliance between humans and Jaxians, Captain Kim raised her glass to High Admiral Day. To new beginnings, she said. Day raised his glass in return. And to new understandings. Later that evening, looking out at the stars from the observation deck, Day finally understood the lesson Earth had taught his people. The strongest civilizations weren't those with the biggest fleets or the most powerful weapons. They were those who understood the universe itself. The answer to why humans sent just one ship revealed everything about humanity's place in the cosmos. They had moved beyond conquest to understanding, beyond force to wisdom. And now perhaps the Jaxians could begin that journey too. The end.